So, welcome everyone, and welcome, Stuart. I'm so excited that you're here and that we can have this conversation today. It's such a pleasure because you've been in such an intensive study, and for us to all learn about that and for you to be able to share your wisdom with the community, I think is so beautiful today. So,
Thank you, Tamika. I'm so grateful to David Tree for all the support through many years of study, and this is a real thrill to be able to chat with you about some of those learnings.
yeah, and you've been doing so much. So I want to say congratulations on your 1,000-hour graduation for this advanced certificate of yoga studies and your own process that you've been in too. And so I'm excited for us to hear a little bit about that. Stuart is just an incredible yoga teacher. He's an incredible presence. He brings a grace to every situation. You have the soul of a poet, and you always have. And so the fact that you brought in these heart blessings and they ended up being part of what you came up with in your 1,000-hour research is just amazing. And we get to experience one of those at the end of today. So I'm excited about that too. Can you tell us a little bit about the journey of your studies on the heart specifically and yoga?
Well, it comes from a very personal place, and I was really interested in heart health. It's been an issue in my family for generations, and I lost my dad when he was only 64, almost 20 years ago, and that's a real profound thing in my life. And my dad was always a very spiritual person who talked to me about the cosmos and philosophy, and he found yoga sort of obliquely in the exercises and the breath work that he was doing in the final stages of his life. And so, I kind of, it's a little bit of a personal tribute to him, this course of study. And I was really interested in how yoga can help build a healthy heart. I had tremendous learnings right off the bat because I kind of went into it with assumptions, and that's always a problem, isn't it? It's like assuming you know what the path ahead is going to be, believing that heart disease might be, controllable by diet or giving things up or exercising more. And I thought that I understood, physiologically how heart disease happens related to high blood pressure and cortisol and diabetes and those sorts of things that everyone makes assumptions about. But when I got into reading and exploring, I really began to understand collectively that there's a new kind of thinking around the impact of trauma and stress and how that affects inflammation and really does create the conditions which are kind of at the top of the stream, right? Like some of the other things I described are the things that are resulting from being in stressful situations or situations that introduce that cortisol, and the impacts of that in the body are really compounding. So very quickly, I kind of moved into a place where I thought about yoga as being the method to kind of live heartfully and to open the heart and to erase blockages and to find ways of being where you are much more in harmony and connection that can inform and enhance your life so that maybe those other complications aren't going to be in your future. That was a bit of a real turnaround for me. And then I was studying David Tree. I did the Whispered Wisdom course, and that was a real opening up for me as well in terms of Celtic spirituality, shamanistic practice, and also earth-based philosophies, and what I consider to be philosophies and traditions that are my own, having been born in the British Isles and growing up there the first few years of my life. And that's my family's history is very much Celtic. And so I really embraced that and kind of dug in the incredible work of John O'Donoghue and the way that he treats blessing as a point of communion, bringing hearts into connection, and the beautiful gesture, the graceful gesture of giving positive hope and metta, really loving kindness to others. So that was the springboard for a lot of the work that I did in the last part of my intensive independent study.
That's amazing. And you know that you kind of sound like you're describing yourself.
Well, you're very kind, and my heart is swelling. And that is a lovely compliment. And through this study, I really feel like I found a bit of my own voice. As I mentioned, I kind of claimed that philosophy. It felt like it really spoke to me on an elemental level. It empowers what I say, it gives me a conduit to speak from my heart. And that's been a very powerful thing in terms of the heart blessings that I delivered as part of my study, but also my yoga teaching. I feel like I found a bit of my own muse, and that when I speak now, I can really express things in ways that are generous, without assumption, and trying to convey in the most gracious and generous way possible, like a blessing does.
That's really interesting because that was something that I thought was incredible. And so it should change your teachings, but that you said that it transformed your teachings as a yoga teacher. Can you speak to that any more specifically, like how you felt yourself shift?
I've always felt, and in David Tree tradition, we come into a zone when we're in a yoga class, and that's about it's about the way we're speaking, about the way we're leading and encouraging people to explore, respecting their space and sovereignty over their practice, but kind of couching them in a bit of richness to really the juiciness to enjoy. So a lot of that comes through what we say and how we say it. And I have books that I love that I bring with me and can pull from, but I find more and more, I just, at the end of class, I'm able to kind of synthesize my own little blessing or my own closure or a description or a summation of the energy in the room too, being aware of, what we're experiencing collectively, how we're all breathing together, and not just what's happening in the room, but preparing ourselves to go out into a world that's always changing. And maybe I reference things that, that all might be top of mind for everyone in the class. I just find a bit more fluidity and a bit more flow, and I'm not unthinking myself, or I'm not second guessing myself, open heart without blockage. And that's a very magical thing in all relationships, right? I hope that some of these heart blessings reach people. They don't have to be studying yoga, they could be working in the corner store, a bank or something, but thinking about how we meet the world and how we do it from a place of recognizing unity and compassion for others as we have compassion for ourselves is really, one of the most profound teachings that anyone can be offered.
Yeah. Did you find that you became more vulnerable through this process? Because sometimes when we really focus on the heart, there can be a lot of corners there and a lot of pockets and areas that may have closed over. I don't mean more vulnerable in a shaky kind of way, but in a more, like you said, connected kind of way.
Yes, yeah, there is vulnerability always. I bumped up a lot of things. Being a immigrant kid and into rural Canada and growing up gay and in a rural environment. Yeah, there are things that I bump up against where I feel that tenderness and that and maybe previous hurt that's still informing me that maybe I haven't sat with. It's actually something you said to a group of us. It wasn't just to me, but about sitting with that ache, like sit on a love seat with it and just let it be. And I do that. I try and just, well, what is that, and where is that, and sometimes I feel very small or very young again, and I can just kind of even hold it just for a few minutes, like that Tong Len transformation too, just holding it for a moment and respecting it, going, okay, there, you're there, and then let it go again. Acknowledging and holding space for that is really important. Those vulnerabilities are important, right? They're a little bit of our own mapping of our life. And so I have great respect for those, not always pleasant bumping up against them, but knowing they're there informs who we are, and, our badges of courage that we have emblazoned across our sash. So I think it's important to take inventory of those things, those vulnerabilities, and be mindful of them.
It's so true. And I think about too how if we're not honoring them, they kind of jump out and bite us. And I think like that sounds kind of threatening, but I think the more that we do sit with those things and not get obviously obsessed with them, but the more that we do notice the tenderness and sit with it and love it, that it doesn't kind of like pop out in arguments or in stressful situations or in things where we do go back to feeling like a child or original wounds come up. It absolutely helps us to be less triggered.
I found I've actually been able to share some of those with other people too, and it's kind of like shining a light on the dark corner, and that seems to give me comfort and a bit of healing too. When you're speaking from your heart and you build that trust with someone, being able to share some of those things and to speak your truth. I know that that's wonderful thing that your new book is telling us too. Shines light on them and makes them less frightening and less of a trigger.
So, can you share with us the three keys to the heart?
Now, sure. The first one is trust in goodness. And I think when you sit with what your heart is telling you, and the heart is a great seat of intelligence, if you can shut off the brain and the thinking and just feel what's going on, that the heart is, a positive force, and it's connected with that positive force of nature in the universe. And we all know how a tree grows, how the branches grow up, and the branches seek the most advantageous place to the light. Evolution and growth of plants, the animals, everything. It's not going backwards. It's always that motion forward to a more elegant solution and adaptation and change for good. And I think our heart can really connect us with that. And you're not going to get explicit instruction, but it's a great way to touch base with that positive goodness that's inside all of us. We're not our brain, we're not our thoughts. Dig into the heart, that elemental goodness that is part of all of us. And doing that, you can often recognize that essential goodness in everyone else too. And sometimes people who may be difficult or challenging in your life, it may help you build bridges too. So trust in your goodness. That's the first one. Number two is count your blessings. How many times have we heard that? But what a empathetic, perfect little instruction. Because I think that filling your heart's cup with gratitude and thinking about what you're grateful for every day, you can do it right now. Just pick one thing and you can feel the heart warm. You can feel that emotion. You can feel that warmth and that validation that comes from gratitude, that is a little bit of a silent, thankfulness, a silent blessing of thanks. It's a great way to come into heart coherence too. I did a lot of reading about the Heart Math Institute and the work they're doing around heart coherence, where you try and unite mind, body, and spirit and reduce your heart arrhythmia and bring it into a coherent pattern. And you can do that with others. And it's a force that it's been proven that can change the world. So really tapping into that blessings, fill your gratitude cup, be positive and find things to focus on that validate you, that give you warmth and thankfulness in your heart, I think is a great key to heartful living, definitely. And the third one, just be one with nature. So much of what I discovered was the power of a walk in the woods, the power of acknowledging your being alongside other beings, whether it's a tree or a rock or a fish or a bird, trying to find that universal connection with other beings within silence and stillness. I love the story of the jeweled net of Indra that we learned in our yoga philosophy about how the god Indra cast a net over the universe, and the net at each join has a perfectly faceted jewel that is unique, but it reflects all the other jewels in the net. And that's how our heart is. And if we can find our uniqueness, our own dharma, to live fully and to shine bright that little jewel we have, we're going to empower and illuminate all those other jewels in the fabric of the universe. And I think that nature is restorative, such an important touchstone for us, especially in our contemporary world where many of us are distanced more and more from wilderness, from wildness, and from that encounter with other beings. I think seeking it out is an amazing thing for our heart.
I love all of those. And you said simple, but sometimes those are the most profound things. Yeah, I know you've read 40 books on the on the heart and done all this extra research.
With great love and veracity, I've enjoyed it, and it continues.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's incredible. And but to synthesize those three, I think is so important because it gives us all something that this can actually help us heal. They're all very, very important for heart health.
They're truths for a reason, and they're repeated for a reason, because we all come back to those elemental factors in being fully alive and recognizing the power of the heart as a means of connection and grounding and intelligence.
And then the way that you share them is so unique and special. Again, it's the poet in you. I have to
Thank you,
say
Jean.
that. I have to keep saying that because I just want to make sure you know it for sure. Did you learn anything interesting about your own heart in your research?
Yes, I did. I learned that my heart kind of seeks certain landscapes and situations that I really crave, that the stillness and the quiet that I've described, that I seek it out often, and I need that. I need that recharge. I also kind of bumped up against my own mystic poetry as part of that, but the observance of, the veil between the worlds, I feel more and more that that is something my heart is calling me to. Yeah, I guess I also have learned it's not just my heart either. And I read Chilton Pierce's book where he talks about a visit to Guru Muktananda, who says, "Oh, there's thousands of egos and minds, but there's only one beating heart." And I went, "Wow, that's an incredible thing to say." The heart that's beating in me, I think, is the same one that was in my great 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 grandfather, and I'm still working through the systems and things he's passed down to me through the chain. So that eternal heart is something I've bumped up against. There's this wonderful river of goodness that I feel I've been able to find through listening to my own heart.
What would you say if someone were to ask you, like, what should I practice to expand my heart, open my heart, find more connection? What would you recommend if you had to recommend one thing?
And I could show you right now. Let's do it together. We can just have a quick moment. Maybe bringing your right hand to cover your heart, covering that anahata chakra, feeling the contact of the hand on the heart is profound enough. You'll feel that warmth, and that we know how the hands are connected to the heart center, and that is a very powerful thing. Just to lay the hand on top and feeling that beating center of our existence. And let's bring the left hand up and maybe touch the thumbs together, and just resting those on top of our heart center. And I just invite you to maybe close your eyes just very gently, or drop your gaze in front of you just for a moment, and sink into your breath, and feel how the inhale that we pull all the way down expands the heart center, and the exhale contracts. And just feeling that breath. And many of our philosophies believe that the self exists in the center of the heart, the Atman. And so perhaps even envisioning, the most perfect blossom for you. Perhaps it's a perfect spring rosebud, or maybe a daisy or a tulip, whatever beautiful flower comes to mind. And with the inhale, feel that flower kind of expand a little, and with the exhale, close. And just hold that image of beauty and perfection in the heart center as you breathe. And then we'll bring our hands together, we'll come to Anjali Mudra, maybe fluttering the eyes open just very slightly, our thumbs resting against the sternum. Take a moment to conjure maybe one person that you are grateful for in your life, or someone that you love a lot, or someone that's cared for you. And just imagine that you're standing in front of them, and just take a moment and keep mindful of your breath and what's happening in your heart center, just that connection that you have with that person, and feel the gratitude well up. And then we'll tip forward just ever so slightly, a slight bow, just to offer thanks to each other for sharing this moment together. And I hope that put you in touch a little bit with that heart center, and that powerful impact of gratitude and beauty and perfection that exists there for you to tap into.
Wow, that was so delightful. I almost felt like everything we talked about didn't matter. Like we were just in the same beating heart, as you said. And I could feel also all the people that will be watching this afterward. I could feel their love too, and connection. So thank you for that. That was really, really beautiful. So much love and thanks to you, Stuart, for all of this.
Oh, and much love to all of our David Tree family. I really feel that connection so strongly, and I thank you and Carolyn so much for this community that we've built over these years, and I really treasure it. Thank you so much.
So if anyone wants to connect with Stuart, you can find him at, is it hollowreedyoga.com?
.com is the website, and on TikTok, I'm at Hollow Reed Yoga, and also on Instagram too, at Hollow Reed Yoga. So those are the platforms I'd suggest.
Yeah, and you've reached a lot of people with those. So folks can find you on TikTok or Instagram or on your website, and maybe there'll be a book someday.
Maybe.
That would be amazing too. Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you, Tamika. May your heart be open to the flow of the river, releasing all that does not serve you to the wild current. May your heart embrace change and welcome challenge. May you meet new beginnings with trust in the flow. May you not grasp or cling. May your heart release and thrive in the wildness of surrender. May the completion of the circle be a symbol that your life is flowing towards your heart's desire.